Hi, this is Nancy with On Point TV. I hope you can all hear me. I can't hear you. I wish I could hear you. So since I cannot hear you, it would be super great if you would chat with me. Let me move my cord out of the way here so I'll actually be able to see it though. There. All right, so chatting is a good thing. And keep in mind that your chat can be about anything. It just doesn't have to be about questions that we're having right now. But if you have questions about other projects, I might be able to answer them right here and now. Or I might say, you know what, I'll get to that next time. Okay. So today we are going to work on a Bear Paw quilt. So you see the quilt behind me. This was my little version of a Bear Paw quilt. There were 3 pictures on the little screen that I showed you, the slideshow that I showed you at the beginning. They were not my designs. I didn't make those quilts. They were full-size quilts, and I just picked them off the internet because I needed more examples of a Bear Paw quilt. Although I probably could have designed a million of them in EQ and put them all up, and that would have been fine too. So, hello, Karen and Roxanne and Carol, and hi guys. You don't know how to spell? Trust me, Roxanne, nobody doesn't know how to spell as well as Nancy does not know how to spell. If there's not a red line under it, I have no idea. Okay, going to go off course a little bit. My very first test in college, can't remember what the class was, but we had, handwrite answers, and I remember I got a D on that test, and it wasn't so much that the answers were wrong as they were all spelled wrong, and that professor thought that was important. That was really, really a hard year for me. Okay, so we're going to learn how to do a Bear Paw, and the reason we're going to do it is a block of the month that I'm working on. So I'm going to slide this in and then go to our overhead. All right. Oops. Are we on? Looks like it kind of froze, I think. Yep. We're going to deactivate it and activate it. There's always something technical that has to go wrong. Okay, did it do it again? Oh, Bill. Deactivate, activate. Okay, now it's working. I'm not going to move it, and maybe that'll make a difference. So a few months ago, my friend Laura, who is the owner of Fireside Quilts, was having a moving sale because she was moving. And I don't know how many of you participated in that live video, but it was really, really fun. We had such a great time going through everything that she has in her warehouse, which is a big bedroom in her old house and her entire basement in her new house. And one of the things I showed was a kit that was coming up, and it was this, the Road Home, all made out of their Wilmington batiks. It's a really pretty quilt. And we had a bunch of people say they wanted to actually make that quilt. And at the time, she didn't have the fabrics for it, so I had a little bit of lead time. Hello from San Diego. Yeah. Okay, so thank you, everybody, for commenting. It makes it easier for me. It's kind of like you're my audience. And I know somebody is listening, and since you can't say anything out loud, seeing a chat, even if it's just hello, makes me go, all right, somebody's paying attention. Okay, so this is the quilt, and this is the block of the month. Now, I'm going to do a series that is 8 months long, and it is going to take you through all the steps of this block. Now, keep in mind, I'm going to teach you how to do this, but also have come up with another pattern, and that's what you guys saw on the behind me. So this one starts with a bear paw in the middle. Then it goes on to an uneven log cabins and then some courthouse steps that are really kind of cool with this traveling color it has in it. Some flying geese. Oh, here's some more bear paws up here. So that one's another one that we will not cover again because you'll already know how to do that. And then these cool chain blocks and then the border. So we're going to do this over 8 months. Keep in mind, this will be happening at the same time that the Learning to Quilt 2 will start airing. It should start airing in October. Teresa is doing some final edits after my friend Cheryl totally edited every single page. There was not one page that she did not have an edit on, but it was good because that means that hopefully it's more precise for you guys. So in this quilt, there's a block of the month. Now, I'm going to take you through the process of making this this bear paw, and that's going to give you an idea how you can make it if you're going to be one of the people that has one of these kits. Keep in mind, if you were interested and you mentioned Laura, hopefully she has been able to get back to you by now. If not, then contact her, Laura at firesidequilts.com. She might have some extra kits. So since I had to do the bear paw, I decided I would just write my own pattern also. So there is the instructions for making this block is in the block of the month that you're going to get. I'm going to take you through some simple technique steps along the way that you might want to be interested in. But then also, if you're not in that block of the month, oh my goodness, somebody is here from Malta. Now, I'm pretty sure Malta is not in the United States, although I appreciate you from Kentucky and San Diego and Florida too. Thanks for watching. So this is the bear paw that we're going to make. Keep in mind, I've done it in 2 sizes. This one I think is about, it says here, 48 by 48 with the 5 blocks, and these are 12-inch finished blocks. And then also a 73 by 92 version. So the instructions and the yardage is in there for all of those. And then there is a cool, oh, I don't have it. I did have a cool other color. Oh, it was in the slideshow that you saw it first. Okay, so we are going to begin. Keep in mind, this is the one for the road home quilt. And then I'm going to now take you through the steps of making not only that, but also the one that was behind me. And we are going to start by making half square triangles to make one of our paws. That is a bear paw. Although I think it looks like claws, but I think that this is his actual claw, like the nail that comes out. And then this whole thing is a bear's paw. So we're going to start with a couple of techniques for making, which this is going to be problematic. I'll have to get this little guy from over there. Okay. So we're going to start by making some half square triangles. And I'm going to take you through what is considered the, I don't know, the standard technique. Keep in mind, in that pattern that I showed you, it had you cutting these squares 2 5/8 inches. That's for making the perfect size right off the bat. Generally speaking, that is not what I'm going to ask you to do, and so I've changed it for the bear paw pattern. So for this one, instead of cutting a 2 5/8, I want you to cut a 2 3/4 inch square after you have taken your Mary Ellen's Best Press to it. So take the fabrics that you're going to be working with pretty much for this whole quilt, but you can go one at a time if you want. If you're interested in how I dunk it, I did that in the very first episode of the Sunset Over Dublin video. So you want this to be, your fabrics to be stiffened. So I use Mary Ellen's Best Press. If you've got another brand you use, go ahead, use it. But stiffen up your fabrics. After you have stiffened your fabrics, you will cut them. And then the most basic way to proceed is to take your square and draw one line right down the center like I did. Now I'm using my Boheen white chocolate pencil. All of the products I'm using are available at Fireside Quilts. Okay, so firesidequilts.com. Take and mark it. Now I'm working on a black fabric, and that's nice because you can really see the mark that I made. If your machine has the ability to move its needle so that from the edge of the foot to the needle placement is the scant 1/4 inch, then that's the only line that you will need. If you do not have that ability on your machine, which most older machines don't have, then you need to draw a second and third line. These second and third lines are the scant 1/4 inch on either side of that center line. And then you will proceed to sew on those lines. But there's some other ways that you can do that exact same thing. This is done with diagonal seam tape from Cluck, Cluck, Sew. And that makes me think of that Friends episode when Joey and Chandler get a chicken. Okay, I digress. So this product is an entire roll of a low tack tape. So it goes onto the front of your machine. Let's see if we can see it. I don't know, the lighting is going to kill it. But this red line is the center line. This outside and this outside are 1/4 inch lines. So I have put a piece of that tape down here. So I want you to imagine that my sewing machine needle is lined up with that red line. Okay? Then you're going to take your squares, put them right sides together. So I have put my black and my bright green old Jane Sassaman fabric. Oh my gosh, this is like the coolest fabric. It's probably 10 years old if it's a day, and I'm so glad that I still have it. You're going to take, and with your needle lined up on the red, then you can line up the point of the square on the left hand 1/4 inch line, and by looking at the bottom of the square, so as I move it up, if all I do is stare down here, that means my line will be sewn 1/4 inch away from that center line. And what I love to do is to take my next square, line it up now to the right, so you see that its point is on the right hand side. Hello from Germany. That's not in, I was going to say in Michigan either. That's not even in the United States. Welcome, Germany. So lining it up on the right-hand side, and then as it goes forward into my machine, I'm paying attention to the bottom of the square and lining that up. And then the next one goes to the left-hand side again, keeps moving up into your machine, then to the right-hand side again. So you can kind of see how it really works. It works so smoothly. There's none of that overlapping of the points that you get when you do it just on one side. So I love this tape for that. After you've sewed on one side, then you totally disconnect all of the squares and you do it on the other side. So now I've got 2 lines sewn. So that's like magic, right? After you've gotten the 2 lines sewn, oh my goodness, all the supplies I have, I didn't bring over a pair of scissors. So excuse me as I walk across my studio, grab my pair of scissors and bring it on back to you. At least I had some on the table, so that was easy enough. Okay, gonna cut those apart. I always like to press them flat with my iron first. That kind of reactivates the spray sizing and makes everything stiffen up and flatten out. Then you're going to cut it right down the middle and then press it. And when you press it, you're going to press, I don't know, to whichever color you want. Obviously with this one, I'm going to press to the black because when possible, us quilters like to press to the dark side. It is not always possible. After you have that pressed, it's time to trim it down to the size that we need for that road home quilt, which is 2 1/4 inches. And to do that, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. If I can find, there they are, my couple of different rulers. So because it's 2 1/4, now previously I've showed you using some of my smaller OmniGrid rulers. I don't know if I can peel this up because I think I've cut it 100 times. But OmniGrid comes in so many different size rulers, and OmniGrid is my favorite style of ruler. I know there's other ones out there, and I know you guys all like them for all sorts of different reasons. I can tell you a gazillion reasons why I like my OmniGrid. But so when I'm doing a 3 1/2, I can grab my 3 1/2 inch from OmniGrid, put my grip stuff on the back, and then cut that around. Well, this is 2 1/4, and I'm sorry, but I don't believe anybody, maybe, could be wrong, anybody makes a 2 1/4 inch square. So instead of using a square, I'm going to use my OmniGrid rotating. We are going to use a square. Oops, I put that on there earlier. There. We're going to use a square, and I have put on the back of it, this is a kind of a grip tape. Oh my gosh, I cannot remember the name of this grip tape. I will try to put it in the description if I think about it, but I do believe that Laura does have that at Fireside Quilts. So I'm going to put that grip tape on the top of the line, okay, so that when I put this down onto this square, my first cut, I'm going to have the advantage of that grip square keeping everything lined up with the diagonal line of the ruler. And then I'm going to cut on the side, right side, the top, spin that around. Now I pick up my ruler. Now I have to put it at 2 1/4 inches, lining up, always being so cautious that that diagonal line is lining up with the diagonal of the half square triangle. Okay, and then bada boom, bada bing, I have a perfect half square triangle. So that is one way of trimming your block. Another way of trimming the block is with the ever popular block lock ruler. So this is a block lock ruler. I don't know if that, yeah, I think you can see, oh, you can see me too. Hi, I'm in the shadow. All right. So with the block lock ruler, there is a groove at the bottom of it right here. And that groove goes into the groove of the seam. So see how the seam is pointing down. You can still see because I have my dog ear here. And then the center line of the block lock is right on the seam itself. And that groove, it just really helps secure it. I mean, it's not tippy like if you just put a regular ruler on, right? So this is the way a block lock ruler works. Because I had one of my very good friends, whose name is also Nancy, using a block lock. We were on retreat. And keep in mind, Nancy, my friend Nancy Mack, is the most prolific quilter I know. She makes beautiful quilts and she makes everything fast. And I love that she's always using her stash, and yet she still goes and buys more fabric. Yeah, raise your hand if that is you. So Nancy Mack was using the ruler, and I was like, Nancy, that's not the way you're supposed to use it. And then I'm like, oh, shut up, Nancy, because it's not like Nancy Mack needs my instructions. She knows what she's doing. But I did want to show her how it was properly to be used, and I did. And then you can get this ruler and do it whatever way you want. And if you can make quilts as nice as Nancy Mack, then go for it. So here's the idea. I trimmed on the right and the top. Now I am going to spin the ruler toward the seam. Now you might not have understood what I said there because it's a really simple little thing. Remember, the seam is facing toward me, right? I need to spin the ruler. Now I don't have, you know what, I'm going to take it off this mat because you don't need to have it on the mat. I'm going to spin the ruler so that it's going toward the seam, then slide the ruler down to the measurement that you want. So now it is lined up on the bottom and the top. I'm sorry, at the right and the top. I just grabbed a totally different rotary cutter. And there, I have my half square triangle. Okay, so I'm going to do that one more time. I wish I could get this little piece up that I put down, but I know I've cut into it a couple of times, so it'll come up into 1,000 pieces. So here we go again, lining it up so that the seam is toward me. Now I cut and cut. Then you want to leave a little bit of pressure on the ruler as you spin it, then slide it down to the size you want. So I don't know if any of you have tried these block lock rulers. They have a lot of different ones. This one I think is the one to have. The Flying Geese one's pretty cool, but they are kind of pricey. But these also, at Fireside, of course, she has them there. So that's how you trim with the block lock ruler to get your perfect little half square triangles. All right, so that was technique number 1. Now I'm going to take you through technique number 2 for making half square triangles. And I love this technique. This is the technique that I want to use when I've got a whole heck of a lot of half square triangles to make. And it is called the grid method. So I'm going to have to move some things out of the way. Boop, 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 so we can get this on camera. All right, so this method, which is going to be great because I have a, get that out of the way. I have a black fabric, so you're really going to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to use my number 1 favorite ruler. This is my OmniGrid 4x14. I seriously think I own a few more than 4 of these rulers, just because, you know, if I don't know, I just always seem to want it and I might not have it with me. And then I had one that was covered in paint. Anyway, I digress. So with the grid technique, you need to use a marker that you can see on your fabric. So I'm again using my Bohemian white. This is on black. Well, what if you were going to be drawing on the green? I would not be able to see white with this, but I cannot use my friction pens because I'm going to be pressing this between drawings, so don't use a friction. Instead, get some other colored chalk for your boheme. So there are, I don't know, pink, yellow, graphite, and green available. So now I'm going to take and line a horizontal line of my ruler up on the drawn line that I just drew. And oh, did I mention you want to keep your grid at least a ½ inch in from the edge. Okay, now I'm going to turn it one more time, and now I'm going to proceed to draw the size I want. Now I told you that these squares were supposed to start with 2 5/8, but I cut my other ones larger. This time I'm going to cut it 2 5/8. And I am going to be so precise. And I know you can't really see it, but I'm being so precise that the 2 5/8 is right on that drawn line. And that down here, it's horizontally correct. So I know that I'm square. I'm going to draw one line. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. 2. And in this case, I think I can get 5 all the way across this. One more this way. Now, hello, West Virginia. Yeah, you like that cluck cluck tape? I'm telling you, it has been a game changer for me. I used to have some other tools that would go on it. Pam Bono, who has passed away now, had a tool that taped onto the front of the machine, but it was such a pain because you had to take it on and off. But this cluck cluck tape is fabulous. Now I'm turning it and I'm drawing the squares in the other direction. And I'm also loving how I can really see, or you guys can really see what I am doing. So trying to be as precise as possible. Look at somebody from Michigan. Hi, Sandy. Sandy, we're going to go up to Cadillac on Saturday. It's going to be such a beautiful day and go for a long bike ride. And I'm really excited about that. It's getting to the point where things are starting to get chilly here in Michigan, so we got to take the sunny days when we can get them. All right, so there is my grid. Now, after I have drawn the grid, the first thing I do is draw a diagonal line from the bottom to the top in this particular square. I have found that if I do that, I can end up with my lines being, whoops, ran out of lead there. My lines being continuous and that's what I want. I really want as continuous lines as possible. Now from this line, let's create another line going all the way up to there. And then continue to follow your line all the way around, and you should be able to make it very continuous. I think you are getting the idea at this point, right? So after I've done this, I'm going to go on to the next step now, all right? So you're going to draw all the way around this. Keep in mind, I have heavily spray sized this. You can see that it is actually kind of, it's not flimsy. It's not quite a piece of paper, but close. You do want to put some pins in. Oops, I just took a pin out of something I didn't plan to take a pin out of. Pins in around these corners so it'll stay placed while you're sewing. Hello, Northern California. I'll be in California in January at the Road to California show. Super excited about that. After you've done your grid drawing, then you will do your sewing. And your sewing will be done a scant 1/4 of an inch from that line. Again, trying to be as precise as possible, right? Now is the fun part. I love doing this, and I like doing this kind of like as a little game. The little things I do to amuse myself here in my studio when I'm all by myself. I like to use my spinning mat. This is my OmniGrid spinning mat. I love it because it has those little finger things, and it has, it doesn't have corners. So it fits on the table really well. So I've cut down one of the center lines because on my mat I can only fit this many. From here, I like to spin my mat around. I am again using my 4x14 ruler, and I'm measuring from that cut that I've made for 2 5/8. Plus, I'm looking at the line that I've drawn. Now pick it up. Go to the next line that you've drawn, going 2 5/8 from that last cut. And you see that I'm trying not to move my fabric. That one moved a little bit. And this is just a little game I play, trying to see if I can cut the whole thing out and not have to do it individually. This particular technique of doing half square triangles, whether or not you draw a little smidge bigger square, or if you try to draw the exact size square that you need, it is so precise. So I don't know if any of you have ever done this. Some of you maybe have used this product called Triangles on a Roll, And honestly, they probably had a 2 1/4 inch finished. This is where the paper has the drawings on it for you, which you can't see because my lights bleed everything out. Nope, well, you can kind of see. And I got to tell you, when I first found this product, okay, I didn't find this product. I saw an ad when I first started quilting. I saw an ad for this, and I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. I didn't know there was any math. And I just went downstairs to the room, I think it was Keith's nursery, was at my sewing room at the time, or the dining room table, and I just drew squares, drew the diagonals, sewed them, made a bunch of half square triangles, and I was just as happy as can be. The thing I like about the triangles on the roll is that you don't have to know any math. You can just put that paper on top of your fabric and sew and cut away. What I don't like was that what I said, where you're sewing through the paper, which means then you have to take the time to tear all the paper off. And I just find that, you know, when I'm doing paper piecing and I have to tear the paper off, I'm okay with that. But when I have to tear the paper off of half square triangles, not my favorite thing. Now, some of you might be just fine with that. And I say, well, then go ahead and use that. Or you might use thangles. I'm not a fan of thangles. I think that they're weird. That sounds awful. Not the people. I don't know any of the people. I'm just saying the product. I don't like that it's all done in strips and that you're sewing and stopping and sewing and stopping. It's just weird. Whereas this, when you're sewing these continuous lines going all the way around. Now is the tricky part, to cut all of these on the diagonal. And when I get those all cut, you can understand what's happening. I've got a whole bunch of half square triangles. So now I need to see if these are the right size. So remember I said I drew that 2 5/8, which is the supposed perfect size for the 2 1/4 inch. So if I take this little square, okay, there it is. All right, and use like my add a quarter on it. Just going to take, okay, it'd help if I had the thing right side up there. And I'm going to lay this down. Check it out. I'm going to look down on here. All right, that is as close as it can get. It has a dog ear. I don't care. If you don't like dog ears, go ahead and trim that baby off. But if I do it with this technique, I will test each one of them just to be sure that they're actually the 2 1/4 that I need. So there you have 2 different techniques for making half square triangles. The first one I used when I got a few to make. The second, the grid method, I used when I got a ton to make. So if you're making the road to home one, which I can't find that paper anymore, if you're making that, you don't need a ton of them. So you wouldn't want to use the grid technique. But if you're making a twin size of the pattern I have, you're going to want to use the grid technique. Hello, Canada. You're never late. You got here in plenty of time. So after you've done that, then you're going to construct your flying goose. So you're going to first, there we go. You're going to make your 2 units. Keep in mind, these units, these half square triangles are lined up differently, because this one goes on the side there. So don't think, oh, I'm going to make them all the same and put like 2 together all the way around. You'll end up having to take them all apart, and that will not be fun. Then you're going to take your second one, put it onto your bear paw center, and then add your third unit, third piece to this unit. That's that pin that I took out accidentally. And then you will have a bear paw. All right, that is how you make the basic bear paw. But in this design, and I'm going to go back to the overhead a second. I'm sorry, the laptop. So in this, hi, it's been a long time since I've seen you, right? So in this design, and most bear paw designs, not all of them, but most of them are going to have 4 bear's paw in a block with sashings going here. So, and in the road home quilt, there is also sashings going here in the middle. And oftentimes, they will ask you to cut a strip of fabric, and from that strip of fabric, cut a whole bunch of little pieces. I want to show you a better way. Let's bring this back. And are we live? You know what? This camera, every time I move it, wants to disconnect. So deactivate, activate. All right, now we're back, okay? Ooh, but I've just fallen off the screen. I don't know what just happened there. You guys, oh, there it is. You guys can't see it, but I can. Okay, I don't think you guys can see it. Maybe you can. All right, so what they're going to have you do is cut a whole bunch of little pieces. And then from those whole bunch of little pieces, you then have to add a whole bunch of little squares to that piece, and then press that, and then take another long piece and attach it to that. How would you like a better way? Of course you would like a better way. You are still going to have to cut some of these, but not as many. So instead of cutting them all into little strips, cut the length, the width that you need, which I think is like 5 3/4, something like that. Put those two long strips together with that little square in the middle. So you've got one long 5 something strip, your 2-inch strip, and then a 5 something strip. Press them toward the sashings, so all of them always get pressed out toward the sashings. Yeah, the Black Lock is a really, really nice ruler. If you haven't tried it, you're going to want to give it a try, because it really, if you're doing half-square triangles, it is, as Daniel said, the best way to go. Okay, now we're going to lay that down. And now we are going to cut the sashings. When you're doing this, you want to line up horizontal line of your ruler right there on that seam. Square off first, and of course I did put it over so that I'm cutting 2 at a time so that I'm more efficient. Spin that baby around, and now I'm going to cut these 2 inches. And I'm going to power cut because I can, and that's just kind of the thing I do. So lining my 4-inch ruler up on the cut edge, being sure I have my horizontal line on my seam line, I'm going to start the cut at 4, then slide it over to 2. And then I have created the sashings that I need for my Bear Paw block, keeping in mind that you will take, I don't have 4 of them, but you'll see the idea. Let's do it this way. You will take your top row and you will attach that with one of the pieces like that, all right? And then you'll make another row just like that. And then these ones, these sashings that you've cut in the quicker, more efficient way will be in the middle, all right? And seams always going toward the center. That is the quicker, easier way and more efficient way to make your sashings. Now you can continue that idea with the blocks. So here each one of the blocks is done with that quicker, easier sashing technique, like this guy here. He's right there, okay? And then the 2 sides of the block, and then your block is done. Now for the designs that I created in the book and for the road to home, you've got to do sashings all the way around. And you're going to do like 3 layers of it. We need to create these. Well, consider those the same way. Okay, so let me pull some pieces over here. Okay, already did that. Trying to clean off my space now so I can see what I've actually got. Here we go. So here is the block. So back to, it's probably going to freeze again, so be prepared. Hey, it didn't freeze this time. That's cool. So this is the block completed. And then I need to make sashings so that it will be sort of like this. And this is like so wild. I don't know, maybe this is too wild for some people, but I love this. I love words on fabric. I love all these great colors involved. Then there was this fabric that I found in my stash. Look at all those great colors again with the lime green and the rusty red and the blue and then this really cool gold. This is going to be a really fun, wild quilt that you're not going to want to give a child because he'll probably never fall asleep. So with this, you need to create these sashings. Do the same thing that we did with the block sashing. So before you do too much, you always, no matter what your block is, if you're planning on doing sashings, measure the block. Don't assume that it's the size it's supposed to be. So this one is 12.5 inches. So I am going to cut my sashings 12.5 inches. But don't assume that your block turned out that size. Measure it. Now I'd make a whole bunch of them, or as many as you were gonna, and then let's say this block only turned out 12.25 inches. Well, then it would make no sense for you to cut your sashings 12.5 inches. Let's do it down here. All right. If your block is only 12.25, cut your sashings 12.25. If your block is 12.75, cut your sashings 12.75. And to cut the sashings, just like we did with the red, don't cut one strip of fabric. Now you might have to if you only need a few of them, like in the road at home. But so instead of cutting one strip, so let's take you back to the basics. It'll say cut a strip 2 inches wide. After you have cut that strip 2 inches wide, cut that into, and in this case, 12.5 inch long rectangles, right? Squaring off my edge, flipping that over, and watch this. I can get, and this is doubled, right? So I'm going to get 2 sashings at 12.5 inches. And then, I must already cut some of this off because I know that if I cut this again, I will be left with a piece that is that long, which is useless. So instead of taking the long strip and cutting 12.5, no, this is right. Yep, I can get 2 12.5, unfold this one. That's where I was going with that. Unfold this one, get another 12.5, and then I have this little piece of wasted fabric. How about a better, more efficient way of doing that so that you will have no fabric wasted and you get to have the advantage of your fabric being the length of grain and your strips being cut this way. All right, and that's really important when you have a patterned fabric like that, because with this patterned fabric, if I had not done it this way, these lines, I'm trying to see if I have one that actually shows it. No, I don't. I didn't pre-cut that. So if you've got a straight fabric, that is going to make these lines be perfectly straight. So I took a 12.5 inch wide big strip of fabric. Then I added a 2 inch strip of my cornerstone fabric, pressed it as always to the sashing fabric. Then this time I do need to use my longer ruler and cut 2 inch strips. And this time I have a 6 inch ruler, 6.5 inch. So power cutting it is first starting at 6, going over to 4, going over to 2. So efficient to do your sashings this way instead of what I'm going to call the old-fashioned way or the not-so-efficient way. All right. So with those all cut, if we look at our block, this is the top corner of the quilt here. So on the 2 sides of the block, you're going to add just sashing. So I have some pre-cut just sashing blocks. That's going to be my row. Block, sashing, and then the setting triangle here, and the setting triangle here. Then on the top is going to be the sashing that you have already one of the squares on. You'll take that and add, there they are, another square to that. That's your top sashing. And then your next row coming down, you're going to take these guys that have that square on it, and you're going to go square sashing, one more square sashing, and just end with one square. So you don't have to sew on all those little squares to your sashings. It just makes it so much more efficient. After you have done that, you're going to press. You're going to cut your setting squares and triangles to the size they need to be. I've done lots and lots of videos on properly cutting setting triangles and corner triangles, but I've mentioned it a couple times now, but you're always going to press toward the sashing. That is going to help line everything up, and it's going to mean that when it's time for quilting, if you've ever watched any of my quilting videos, I do the on the ledge. So I would do the on the ledge quilting first on the sashings, and that is going to secure all of these seams. In this quilt, because we have these kind of strange little squares on the corner, when the whole quilt top is done, you will take and line the edge up at the 1/4 of an inch. So that blue dot, blue square, and this blue point will be on the 1/4 inch of my ruler, and I can trim them all off, or I can actually draw a line and sew on my borders. So there you go. Quick techniques of making a bear paw quilt. I don't know if any of you guys have already made a bear's paw quilt. If you have, I would love to see pictures of it. So for instance, this morning, I woke up to my Facebook page for sharing, which is Quilting with Nancy Show and Share. And somebody had actually asked, they'd seen this really cool tile. Let me go get it a second. He'd seen this really cool tile somewhere and wanted to turn it into a quilt, which is like the coolest thing ever. And couldn't quite figure it out. And I saw it and I got intrigued. And so I actually did it up in electric quilt first, of course, as everything I do. And I was able to come up with the templates, and it wasn't so easy. When I first saw it, I thought it was just going to be 60-degree diamonds. They're not. They're like 64 3/4 inch, whatever degrees. It was not as easy as I thought because each one had to be square. It turned out really cool. I did that on my On Point-TV Facebook page. So if you want to know how to do that little tile, take a look there. But my point is, please share what you are making. You can share it on the Quilting with Nancy Show and Share Facebook page. I would love to see what you're working on. I love it when you show anything, but it's really kind of cool when you show something that was one of my patterns that like makes me feel good. I go, look, I taught them well. Yay! There we have it. That is the Bear Paw quilt. The pattern is already available on the website, www.onpoint-tv. The link is below. I don't know if you can see it now or not, but you will be able to see it at some point in time. So if you want to do the pattern, it is an e-pattern, so you can download it. All of my other books and videos are there, and lots of them are printed books. I'd be happy to mail one to you if you're wanting me to. You buy it, I'll mail it. I'm okay with that. You don't pay any shipping when you buy it on my website either, because the shipping price is included in the price of the book. Please like this video. Please share this video. And if you'd like to help keep me in the studio so I wouldn't have to go back to an office job, consider joining my membership. There's 3 levels of membership. Beginner membership is like $5 a month, and pretty much that keeps me in thread. And that says, thank you for doing this video, Nancy. I'm going to appreciate you by joining the beginner level membership. And if you have any questions about quilts, you can send me questions via email and just say, hey, I'm working on something. I can't figure it out. Could you please show me how to do that or do a video for that? 2 is the designer level, and designer level, same idea, but then they also get a once a month Zoom training class. So in live person, we get together on the 4th Thursday of the month, and I teach them electric quilt for designing. FYI, if you happen to be, and I'm seeing a couple of you here, a designer or Quilt Addict member, and you want the Bear Paw that I designed in electric quilt, I'd be happy to send you that file. Why not? You have the EQ, and if you're a member, I'd send it to you. And then the 3rd level is Quilt Addict. 3rd level membership means that you appreciate the show, thank you, that you get to do the Zoom class with electric quilt. And 3rd, you've already received in your email today the pattern. So every time I come out with a new pattern, you get an e-copy of it for free, technically, but it is part of the membership. Which reminds me, there are 3 people that have been members on the Quilt Addict level. I don't have your email. You've never received a pattern from me, and that's really very sad because I've got a lot of patterns I want to send you. So if you are a Quilt Addict member, please send me an email to quiltingwithnancy@gmail.com so I can send you all of your freebies, okay? That's all I got to say about that. Thank you for joining me, and have a great night.